Hello everyone, it's Rachel and welcome to my channel and to today's video, which is going to be all about the 24 hours after birth. If you have not yet seen my birth story, I will leave it linked in the description box down below and also here somewhere. So you can go check that out if you have not yet seen it. But today's video is going to be all about the 24 hours after giving birth and what that is like. Now, as a disclaimer, of course, this will vary depending on the kind of birth you've had, the delivery you've had, where you delivered, whether a hospital, home birth, where you live, that kind of thing. I live in British Columbia in Canada, and I had a vaginal delivery with no epidural. So of course, I can only really share from my experience. Depending on the kind of birth you had, your experience may be very different, but this is what the 24 hours after birth was like for me. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So of course, the first little while after giving birth is mostly just being with your newborn, cuddling them, having some skin to skin, nursing, that kind of thing, just being with them. I think I had about an hour or so with my baby after they were born. That hour was really special. It's also when they did like the stitching me up, and because I had an episiotomy, so they had to do some stitches while I was holding him. They stitched me up and got the placenta out, all that kind of thing, which is nice to have him there because he was a bit of distraction for me. We just had about an hour just to be with him and try nursing and just bond for a bit, and that hour was really special. After that, they did some tests on the baby. There's a lot of different tests they have to do. I don't even remember all of them because it felt like they were always coming in and doing all these different tests and whatever, which I guess they have to check a lot of things, make sure the baby's doing okay. But yeah, they did a bunch of tests and then they bathed him, showed us how to change diaper. They also did some checks on me, like checked my blood pressure, and they did like a uterus massage, which is pretty uncomfortable because your uterus, you know, it just did a lot of work, and now they're like pressing on it, and yeah, it was not the nicest thing. It was pretty uncomfortable. They're just trying to make sure, I think it was that it's going down properly, shrinking properly, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, that was something they did after the baby was born, just check and make sure I'm doing okay and everything. And around the time they were doing tests on Tobias, they wanted me to get up and try to pee. I think it just has to do with the fact that if your bladder is too full, it can make it hard for the uterus to go back to the original size, something like that. It's best that you empty your bladder, so they wanted me to get up and go to the bathroom. I tried. Apparently the first pee can be a little bit hard, and yeah, I had a shower because I had a little bit of blood, you know, birth, blood happens. So I got cleaned up, but I could not pee. So they ended up having to use a catheter to empty out my bladder because it was pretty full. If it hadn't been very full, they probably would have just left it and waited till I was able to pee. But because it was pretty full, they took the catheter and emptied it out so it wouldn't get in the way of the uterus shrinking. Something I found out shortly after that, when I actually was able to pee, was that I had no control over my bladder. 1 minute I'd be like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. And the next it was in my pad, which very thankful I was wearing a pad, otherwise it would have been such a mess. It took a few days for me to be able to get control of my bladder. I had literally no control. So I kind of learned that the moment I got that urge to pee, I had to get to the bathroom fast. And they give you like a peri bottle, which they say, you know, fill it up with lukewarm to tepid water and spray it down there while you're peeing. But I found I did not have time to fill up that bottle with lukewarm to tepid water before I was already peeing. So sometimes I'd just fill it up and use cold water so I could spray while I was peeing, because otherwise I would not get there in time. And that was something I did not expect. I knew that some women lost control of their bladder after giving birth, but I had no idea that right after birth you literally have no control at all. Because of the stitching and also just giving birth and everything, that whole area down there was very sore. So I found sitting to be pretty uncomfortable, especially since like just moving in general, that lower part of your body is a little bit uncomfortable. It took a little while to walk normally. They told me to lie down when I wasn't nursing just to get off the stitches. But yeah, my butt got pretty sore from just sitting and lying all day. I tried to get up and walk a little bit just to give my butt a bit of a break because yeah, everything was pretty sore and tender down there after giving birth, which is totally normal. But stitches definitely did not help. Throughout the 24 hours, they'd come in and do different checks on me and the baby. They also came in every once in a while to help me with nursing, or I could ring for them if I was having a bit of trouble. They'd kind of help me just with position and making sure his latch was right. He actually had a pretty bad tongue tie. It was pretty much to the tip of his tongue. It was a very large tongue tie. And they told me that his latch was fine, that it wasn't a problem. And the doctor told me that she wouldn't recommend us getting it clipped unless it was a problem with his latch. So we didn't end up getting it clipped at the hospital, but once we came home, it was a problem. We did have quite a bit of trouble with nursing, so we did end up getting it clipped, and that solved the problem, and now nursing has been great. But yeah, nurses would come in every once in a while just to help me out with nursing and yeah, do various checks and tests and that kind of thing, make sure both Tobias and I were doing okay. It was really hard to get any sleep in the hospital just because with all the checks and ins and outs and having to call for nurses, and other people were calling for nurses, so you hear the buzzers going off in the hall, and also just with having to wake up every couple hours to nurse, it was very hard to get any sleep at the hospital. I probably got practically no sleep. I might have gotten a little bit, I really don't remember, but I do know I got very little, if any, at all. It's also just, you've been through so much and there's so many new things you're adjusting to and learning and trying to get the hang of. It's a lot, and so sleeping is a bit challenging just with everything going on and trying to adjust and just all of that. Because he was born at about 8:30 in the morning, we ended up staying till around 8:30, maybe 9:30 the next day. So we were there overnight, and then in the morning they came and did a full check on him, basically checked him from head to toe, made sure he was good and that everything was okay, there weren't any concerns or anything like that. They also did some checks on me, did the blood pressure and did the uterine massage. And then they had someone come in who would go over a whole bunch of information with us before we were discharged. It's a lot of information. Basically, I had someone come in, sit down, and just tell us what you should do for the baby, what you shouldn't do for the baby, help with nursing, stuff about sleeping and safe sleeping places, and what poop should look like and shouldn't look like, and how often they should be doing it, and peeing, and how my recovery should go, and when I should get in touch with a doctor, and just all this stuff. Honestly, it was really kind of hard because I had just had a baby 24 hours ago. My brain was literally mush, like my brain was gone. And yet they're sitting there and just spilling out all this information of stuff I need to remember. And they do give you some pamphlets of stuff, but I almost wish they kind of wrote it down and gave it to you instead of just sitting there telling you it all, expecting you to remember and like sending you home. Like, we're both running on very little sleep, so I kind of personally wish they had that stuff written down for you, or maybe that we had known to take notes or whatever, because like we're not thinking of that. But afterwards, we're like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of information and we're so tired. How are we gonna remember this? Someone did call us a couple days later just to kind of go over things, check how we were doing, stuff like that. So they did go over a bunch of stuff they said at the hospital. And of course, I've had a couple days to recover. My brain was still not really there, but them going over it did kind of help reiterate it in my mind. But yeah, in the moment, it was a lot of information to take in that I was not prepared for. And then the last thing they did before we went home was a nurse came in and watched us or checked us putting him into his car seat, making sure that it was tight enough and that he was in the right position and that kind of thing. I think that is everything for the 24 hours after birth. Let me know in the comments below if you have given birth, what your 24 hours after birth looked like, and if it was similar or if it was really different. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of my videos or my vlogs that will be coming up, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell button so you're notified every time one of my videos goes up, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.